Welcome in to the night shift, Mike. We are just days before the regular season kicks off, and the London Knights look to defend their Memorial Cup championship from last season. Kyle Grimard and Mike Stubbs. You can follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. You can also watch us on YouTube now. We're going to have clips throughout the entire year. Our conversations, chats with former players, current players, all that and a whole lot more. Mike, 2 days before puck drop on Friday at Canada Life Place. The excitement is building. There's some moves that we have to get to. There's some players at our NHL camps, making some impressions. We got a lot to cover.
We do. So let's jump in. We're going to hear from Brett Welychka a little later on. Brett's gearing up for another season in the pros in Europe, and he talks a lot about hockey, sure, but being a dad. He's been a dad for 2 months. So he's got some advice for dad. No, he's having a great time. So we'll hear from Brett Welychka. We'll hear from Dylan Hunter a little later on that very first game and how you do balance off the fact that you don't have everybody on your roster. But we'll break down the London Knights roster right away so that you know who's in, who's here, and what's happening as we go into the regular season. And the one thing, Kyle, that the Knights had coming into even this week was 3 goaltenders. And 1 goaltender, not enough. 2 goaltenders, perfect. 3 goaltenders, doable, but not always ideal. So the London Knights have worked out a trade for Jayden Cholette, who came into camp. Let's give him the kudos that he deserves. Came into camp, and there was no promise. There really wasn't necessarily a thought that, wow, this guy might play his way onto either the team or into the league. But he's done that. He's 19 years old, from Gloucester, was dynamite in training camp, was very good in the exhibition season, the preseason for the Knights, and now is a member of the Oshawa Generals. So it's all about finding players places to play sometimes. And he showed he can play at this level. And so now he goes to Oshawa. And you think about it, Kyle, I love this about sports. You have the London Knights and the Oshawa Generals who meet in the finals 2 years in a row. And there they go, 2 hard-fought series. The Knights wind up winning both. And then, hey, at the end of it, it's a competition. You're still able to come together and make a trade to help a player. I love it.
Yeah, and it's a very unique circumstance too, because you're not just dealing with professionals or players or guys who are making money so like they can make the transition. It's a tough transition for a teenager to go from one spot to another, even if it's just a few hours away. That is a big adjustment for anybody, but I think the two teams understand at the end of the day, once the season was over too. A lot of changes were going to be happening. The Knights felt like they were in a position where they had some good depth there. They moved off of one of their 3 guys that played really well in training camp and even in the exhibition games. So, you're right. It is nice that teams are able to do that. And like you said, it gives him an opportunity to go play for another team, maybe, find a spot on that team and play. He was playing dynamite here before, obviously, the move. He had a 950 save percentage in his playing time here. He looked great in camp, and it showed in the games as well.
Yeah, he and Seb Gatto, almost identical numbers. And Seb is a tremendous goaltender. And Alexei Medvedev is a tremendous goaltender. So, yeah, nice problem to have. And now the London Knights move forward. And goaltending will be a strength on this team, given what Seb Gatto can do, given what Alexei Medvedev can do. So, in return, the Knights get a conditional 15th round pick in 2029. So, that is all dependent on what happens with Jayden Cholette as he goes to the Oshawa Generals, where he will join Isaac Gravel, who even played in a game last year against the London Knights, and also another guy they have picked up in Andrei Bondarev in the import draft. So Oshawa still has a bit of a goalie glut on their roster, and we'll see where Cholette winds up factoring in. The Knights have 15 forwards on their roster, and you would think, 12 play in a game, that's 3 extras. Well, Will Nickel is out for months and could return maybe around the holidays, maybe just after in the new year. And then you've got Sam O'Reilly, who is at camp with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we'll talk about him in just a minute. We've still got some players away, and they will begin to come back. We'll talk with Dylan Hunter about that and kind of how you deal with that as a coach when you really don't know day to day, because it's not like NHL teams are texting you with updates every 5 minutes. Well, we're going to let this guy practice, and then we'll send him back to Major Junior. No, when he's in the NHL, he's in the NHL. And when they say released to his junior team or reassigned to his junior team, that's when he's coming back. That's the only thing that even the teams in the OHL and other leagues find out. So when you look at the 15 forwards, you need them all right now. And the Knights do like to carry extra forwards. And we've seen this. They like to carry extra defensemen. You always want to have that competition factor in practice. And how often, as Dale Hunter told us, you can tell when a guy is really about to do some big things in games because he's doing big things in practice. And Dale really puts a high emphasis on practice and what players are up to. And so it creates that great competition factor for roster spots in games. And you've got to earn your ice time with the London Knights, and it's something that tends to work out well. So of those 15 forwards, I think we need to spend a couple of minutes on Sam O'Reilly, because I'm really interested to see how things go. Sam played exhibition games for the Edmonton Oilers last year. We've told the story. Walks into the dressing room. Corey Perry on one side, Connor McDavid on the other. The Oilers then thought, okay, we've got to make a move in the offseason. We need to address the wing. They get Ike Howard. They send Sam O'Reilly 1-for-1 the other way. Ike Howard won the Hobey Baker, best player in the NCAA. So Tampa Bay thinks highly of Sam O'Reilly. I wonder, Kyle, with the way that he plays, with the fact that this guy plays not just Tampa Bay Lightning style hockey, but he's ready for whether it's a regular season game or a playoff game every night. Every night is the same. And consistency is something that NHL teams appreciate. Will Sam O'Reilly hang around Tampa Bay longer than we think? I think, yes, he does.
It could happen. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, this is a team that's formulated, especially the center position, but development in the system. I mean, you talk about those early years, in their farm system with Yanni Gourde and Ty Johnson and Braden Point and all those guys, and they formed what they call the kid line, and they essentially just played a year. I believe it was Syracuse that they played, and then the year after they just brought the line up to the NHL, and they just kept working effectively, and eventually they were stalwarts, and they were the reason that Tampa Bay was able to go on and win a championship. So I think that I'm not saying that he's going to be any of those guys, but I can see how they view Sam O'Reilly as a similar type of player who's consistent all the time, who buys into the system, whatever they put in front of him. He's an incredibly hard worker. He's focused. He's very on point, and I can see that being a blueprint for him. And if he follows it, that's a similar archetype I can see him being in the NHL.
And then you look on defense. They've got 9 defensemen. We've discussed it, and it'll be discussed again and again. Sam Dickinson in San Jose is one of those 9 on the roster. So effectively, the Knights right now have 8. Sam Dickinson in rookie tournaments played very well, even scored a goal. Kasper Halttunen also scored for the London Knights. San Jose had one of the most extensive rookie tournaments, along with Anaheim and Noah Reed and LA and Jared Woolley and Henry Brustevich. There were former Knights all over the place in those rookie games. But Sam looked very good. He got a lot of time. Now he goes into the main camp, and we see what happens there. You think, well, 8 defensemen, is that too many? That tends to be how many the London Knights have carried. And just when you go thinking, I will start the season with 6 on the roster, you're calling somebody up in the second game. Somebody's got a bump, a bruise, an actual injury, an illness, you name it. There's always room for those extra players. And again, it comes down to who is performing in practice. And you always like to have that competition, especially when there are a lot of faces. So this is the way the Knights go into the regular season. 15 forwards, Will Nickel injured, Sam O'Reilly in Tampa Bay, and you've still got other players away, and then 8 defensemen plus Sam Dickinson in San Jose. That's the way it'll shape up as the Owen Sound attack bring a team that looks really good. They actually could be a team that if everybody takes the step you would expect from them, they could make some noise this year. I see them as being one of those sneaky teams, like I still think the Sarnia Sting can be. The Sarnia Sting didn't have it in the preseason. If they ever catch fire, I still think they can be one of those sneaky good teams. So we'll get to that when we talk about the Western Conference in just a little bit. But rookie tournaments, rookie games, we did see some highlights. when you take Philadelphia and the New York Rangers, and you've got Tucker Robertson, who you'll know from his days with the Peterborough Petes, where Tucker Robertson played on the team that the Knights faced in the 2023 championship series. He feathers this pass in front to Denver Barkey. Barkey's normally the guy feathering passes,
Yep.
but the finish on that goal, that was amazing.
Yeah, Denver, he looked good skating around, and yeah, you're right. He's normally the facilitator of plays. He's normally the one firing feathered passes, sauce in the air and putting it right on guys' tapes, and he gets one in return. But it's a situation where you're so used to being one thing, Mike. You've got to be ready when times because we're now at another level. The NHL is another level where everybody can do what you're able to do in junior hockey. It's now what can you do when it gets reciprocated to you? Denver Barkey gets the pass and doesn't even hesitate, pucks in the back of the net. That's what they want to see. That's an instinctive, that's a reactive play that normally guys maybe hesitate on, or they try to stick handle a couple times and get comfortable. That puck is on and off Barkey's stick in a hurry. That's a good confidence boosting play for him, showing that, yeah, when the puck's here and I'm in a good opportunity, I'm going to shoot it. I'm not going to overpass. I'm not going to force something. And, he looked good getting that feed.
Barkey and Oliver Bonk with the Flyers looking to impress, and both are impressive players. No worries there. The Tucker Robertson story, I still love that. I know he's not a former London Knight, but the Tucker Robertson just seems to have these moments. This past summer, he had a moment in that he was traded from Seattle to Philadelphia for a former teammate in J.R. Avon from that Pete's team. And Tucker Robertson, a couple of years ago, it was his draft year, and the draft was taking place in Montreal, and everybody will remember the day because it was the day that we had the cell outage. And I don't know how much of the population lost their cell service. It felt like half. I think it was a little under half, but nobody could use their phones. They weren't working. And it was essentially the day of the draft in the National Hockey League. So Tucker Robertson goes with his mom and his agent to Montreal, and his dad is coming down a little later with his sisters. And there's the outage, and it's affecting them. And his mom has Tucker's suit. And she's trying to get the suit to Tucker, but she can't text him and say, hey, because he was staying at a different hotel. It's just kind of the way that it works at the draft. And so she couldn't tell him. So she takes the suit to him. They get one little snippet of FaceTime just for a second on Wi-Fi. And I don't know whether it was choppy or whatever. It feels like it was. And it was like, your suit, hotel. And that was it. And so she dropped it off at the hotel where he was staying, but the hotel couldn't find it. And Tucker's agent is taking off his suit and about to have Tucker wear it. I don't know how close in height, weight they were, but you tend to look good for the draft. And agents, they always look good. So, I mean, we're talking probably tailored suits. And Tucker's about to put it on. His mom arrives at the door. She says, I'm here. I went through storage. I found it. And he put on his suit and he made it to the draft. And just as if there were some meant to be things that day for Tucker Robertson, his dad and his sisters are trying to get in touch with him. Again, cell service is out. They don't know where they're necessarily going. They walk into the draft 3 picks later. He is selected by the Seattle Kraken. I always love that draft day story. But watch Tucker Robertson, even though he's not a former London Knight, this guy has stories follow him around everywhere.
I love it. And you know what? It doesn't always have to be a night. You get fascinating stories. And at some point when they play pro or they move on, they're going to bump into a former Knight, and then you get stories from them. And, we talked about it here before the podcast. You were saying, I got a story, Kyle. I got to tell you about this because it's a crazy draft story. And lo and behold, that's something you don't hear every day. So I love to hear it.
So if we look back at the rest of rookie tournaments, another guy carving out a story and doing it the hard way, Landon Sim. Landon Sim with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the rookie tournament is dropping gloves twice against Montreal, once against Ottawa. He's doing things the hard way, showing what he's willing to do. And remember, Landon Sim can play the game as well. Watching what he's doing there, watching the ferocity that he has played with, knowing that Landon has been through some injury troubles and is healthy right now. I'm going to make another prediction, Kyle. I think Landon Sim gets at least a game or two in the NHL this year.
Wow. I like it. And you know what? We talked about certain types of players fitting situations and teams. I mean, Craig Berube has he said it, when he took over, he wants to make the Leafs team tougher. He wants to make them harder to play against. That's the definition of Landon Sim. He is an absolute nightmare to play against if you're on the other team. He's physical, he forechecks, he hits, he talks trash, he's in front of the net, he's scoring goals, he's shoving for extra space. He is everything you want from a player. And he's a great guy in the locker room. Like, that's a guy who everyone gravitates to. And if they're looking to see, he was brought on, he signed his deal. It's a two-way deal, and he'll play some time in the Marlies, and I think he's going to be a really important player for that too. But you get a shot in the NHL, and if your coach likes what you see, you might stick around a little longer. We'll see. I love that prediction, though, because you're right. He's doing things the hard way. He's a guy who scored 30 plus goals at the OHL level. Maybe isn't the way he's going to play at the pros, but he's finding other ways to contribute and show that he's valuable.
Well, you remember Landon Sim, and I think this is maybe one of the most telling parts about this, because Landon is a guy who, when he was playing in 2023, 2024, the Knights, remember, he missed most of the start of that year with an injury. When he was in the lineup, the Knights went 32, 4, 1, and 2. So at that time, he would have been 19 years old. But even going back to when he was 18, 17, he was somebody who would always bring up the level of play. And again, it goes to earning your ice time. He would go out and play so hard that he was going to get ice time. And you saw that on the bench as a player, and you thought, if I don't kind of step up my game, I've been a little sleepy so far, he's going to get on the ice and I'm not. And so it always brings up that level. That will happen at this next level as well. A little differently, but you think about those times when you're going through major injury troubles. Who are you going to be able to bring up? You tend to elevate guys who are already on your roster into maybe those top three lines. You need to fill out that fourth line. That's where he's going to get his shot. I bet we see him in an NHL game or two in those scenarios this year, and then it will be up to Landon to show what he can do. And if he catches the eye of Craig Berube, wow, I mean, we could see him finding a place to play in the National Hockey League. You can only hope. Injury-wise, Easton Cowan was held out of after the first game that the Maple Leafs played, and so we'll wait to see as Leafs training camp begins how that's going. The other Leaf injury, Brad Treliving, their general manager, has come out and said Max Domi, a former Knight, has tweaked something, says it's a lower body, may not be ready for the start of camp. And then a tough one for Corey Perry in kind of a workout before training camp. He tweaked something in his knee, it appeared, and so he was helped off the ice, and it looks like he's going to miss some time to start the year. So some injury troubles that way. But hey, that's the game, right?
That's the game, and you could go through your entire process off season and you tweak something, and you want to make sure you're not pushing anything in early September or late August. You want to make sure that if you're going to miss any time, it's not significant and that you're there for the majority of the season with your team.
Let's look at the power rankings very quickly. Top 5 in the OHL. I love these things for debate. You always have to look at this and say, this isn't in stone. The standings give us in stone. Right now, the standings say 0, 0, 0, 0, and everybody can win the Memorial Cup. First power rankings have Brantford at the top. They have Windsor number 2. They have Kitchener number 3. They have London number 4 and Niagara number 5. So those are the OHL power rankings, and they get a lot of different eyes and voices to contribute to those power rankings. So that's where it sits. Brantford, Windsor, Kitchener, London, and Niagara. I think London just gets it based on pedigree. The other three, I think this is what's going to make this year really fascinating in the OHL, Kyle. Brantford, Windsor, and Kitchener are the easiest teams to study right now because they have, among all rosters, the most returning players. So you know what you're looking at. And let's not take anything away from those teams. They have impact returning players. They have really good returning players. So, no, these teams are going to be good, but it's really easy to look and say, now I know why they're going to be good, because For Brantford, you have this player, this player, this player, whether it's Jake O'Brien or Merrick Van Acker or Ryerson Leenders and David Igorov in goal. Windsor returns basically their entire team except for probably Ilya Protas. And if he ever did come back to the OHL, wow,
Look at
that you talk about man among boys. What's the next level up? Yeti among boys? It would be something like that. Bigfoot among boys. Kitchener, Jack Pridham's back. Their question will be who can assume the role that Jackson Parsons had for this team. But you've got a lot of guys who are older. Cameron Reed will have an impact year. Loco Romano is going to have an impact year. They've got players you recognize. The rest of the league has a lot of new faces. And so I think we're really going to need a month or two. And usually, sure, a month or two, you got to figure it out in junior hockey. You get surprises. But I think the odds of having major surprises are greater this year because of all of the influx of BCHL players or players who may have been looking just to go NCAA and were playing in the USHL. A guy like Braden Clark's a great example. He was playing in the NCAA. Now he's going to come and play in London, and then maybe he earns a professional contract. Maybe he goes back and plays some NCAA and then earns a professional contract. But there are so many unknowns or guys that we really can't put down on paper and say, yeah, that guy there, he's going to do this. He'll get 30 goals or he'll be a plus 42 or you can't do it. So I think it's easiest to say Brantford, Windsor, and Kitchener. I think a lot of the rest of the league comes with a big question mark. And the Knights have a few of those too. But that's going to create some big jump up pops, jump scare surprises in the season.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Mike. And like you said, like a team in that top five, and maybe it's just me here, but Niagara at that 5 spot to me is really intriguing because that's a power ranking that comes out early saying, we've seen the struggles with the organization over the last few years. Them being in that 5 spot means that there's expectations now. So I'm intrigued to see how they start the year and see if they live up to them, if they take a little bit to get going, like we see some teams do oftentimes. But that's a really surprising one to me. And then you're right. It's all based on association of players who are going to be coming back, who are either going to take a jump or are going to be very impactful to their team. The Kitchener one's a perfect example. You rattled off a lot of players that I think what they were able to bring last year, they're just going to elevate and be even better outside of the role of Jackson Parsons and how they're going to vacate that because he was their guy. I think he played 85% of their games last year. He was a monster for them. He was goaltender of the year. It made a lot of sense. So that's going to be interesting. You made the mention of Brantford too and how they're going to be, and they're going to be one of the top teams. And it's based on what they were able to bring and the names that they have associated with them. But you're right. It's kind of a big question mark and to see what happens with the rest of the league. There's going to be some teams that are in the top 3 or leading their division who you're like, well, where did they come from? And that's junior hockey for you.
So here's what we're going to have for you this year. We'll have some game day previews on our audio portion of the podcast. So you can find that wherever you get your shows, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, and it will essentially go player by player through the opponent. So if that's not as in-depth as you want to go, it's not going to be for you. But if you want that in-depth player by player, we'll go through it. We'll have one for the London Knights, and then we won't tend to do the Knights very often. We'll mix in some things, who's hot, who's doing some things as the season goes along. But as the Knights take on the Owen Sound attack, it'll be player by player. Here's who the attack are. As the Knights take on Windsor, player by player, here's who the Windsor Spitfires are. And those are their first 2 games. And so we'll have those coming out essentially on game days. So look for those in your feeds, look for those in your podcatcher, and you can get that sense of who the Knights are playing tonight. We'll give you guys to watch and then kind of run down the entire roster. We did have a chance to talk with Dylan Hunter, Knights assistant coach, about how you manage things at this time of year, because you still have quite a few players away at camp and they could show up at any time, and all of a sudden you've got that whiteboard where you keep your lines and the side of your hand is full of blue or black ink because you keep rubbing one out and putting another number down. Here is our conversation with Dylan Hunter.
Dylan, after 3 years where you had similar rosters, now all of a sudden the roster's a little bit different. What's it been like getting ready for game number 1?
I mean, yeah, it's been different than the past years. A lot more learning, a lot more static stuff on the ice, but as a coach, it's fun. You kind of bring it back a couple years ago, and just start working on things that we can do a little bit better. And again, like I said, it's not so much a personality trying to mold them into what they're going to be. It's a full system restart. So it was a little bit different.
You get a little bit of a ceremony before the game. What is that like, knowing there's still one more tribute to what you accomplished last year?
It's been a great summer. They deserve it. So it's a hard trophy to win. You always hear older people say that. The older I get, the more I realize how hard it really is to win that last game. So they deserve as many ceremonies as they can get.
When you look at balancing things out, not necessarily knowing who's coming back from camp, when they'll be back, how do you work out a lineup?
Yeah, no, it's tough. Obviously, you got guys coming in. You don't know when they're going to come in. You hear maybe on the weekend, and then they end up playing well, and they stay another week, which is amazing for them. You just kind of go, day by day, and you see who's kind of matching with who. But in the end, you're not really filling it out. You're just trying to put guys in where they're more comfortable and see where they end up.
You got new vets on the team, new young guys on the team, but you watch around the team after practice. Everybody, it feels almost like some of your other teams. Everybody's smiling, happy, getting along, all those things.
Yeah, a lot of new guys. They've come right in. It's a little bit of a different year. We've had a couple guys that played junior that are technically, rookies in our league, but they have the, Hawkins and, Brownie and those guys. And so they came in, they're older guys. They've been around a little bit. So as much as you can call them new faces on the team, they're not in this situation. So they've really melded together. It's not so much guys are at camp. It's a really young team. We got a little bit different variety this year, and it's been good.
Lead off against Owen Sound. They return a lot of players. Anything you expect from them?
We've seen a couple games. You can't really go off exhibition. Everyone's doing something else. Some guys aren't trying to get hurt. Some guys are trying to make an impression. So it's tough to really judge from it. But again, we know what kind of systems they got. They're aggressive. They're going to come out they're going to come out hard on us. We're assuming a couple of their goalies, their high-end guys, are going to be gone. But they got some young guys in Bowie there that can really play. So it's going to be a challenge for us. They're going to come out. I know they got high hopes for this year. They want to be on top of the league, so we got to be ready for them.
London Knights assistant coach Dylan Hunter, who we always hear from throughout the year. Dylan has such a brilliant mind for this game. We'll do some hockey 101s. We'll look at things through the lens of the power play, which he is a key part of. And then we'll pick Rick Stedman's brain on the penalty kill, because, Kyle, we've got a lot of new faces on special teams. You take essentially the entire number one PP from last year, you're going to have new faces this year. Brand new faces this year.
Yeah, you're not going to have that weapon on the Ovechkin spot with Kasper Halttunen, who, if he wasn't ripping a one-timer, he'd fake it, cut to the middle, and then wire a snapshot by the goalie over the left shoulder. You don't have Denver Barkey facilitating, and him and Cowan, the twins, coming up when they're starting in their own zone and one's dropping to the other, or vice versa. You don't have Dickinson, who is a little bit of everything for you. The only guy you can really think of that is going to be a presence there, if you mentioned he comes back, is Sam O'Reilly. But in the meantime, while he's at NHL camp, you're right, that entire unit is going to look completely different. So who's going to be, on the back end quarterbacking? Who's going to facilitate? Where are guys going to be? Are they going to use a player in that bumper bonk slot? That seemed to work well for a couple guys. They've tried it before. I think they've used defensemen like Alec Regula in the past in the front, and he was a guy who scored 20 plus goals for the Knights. So there's a lot of question marks. It's exciting, it's intriguing, and it's always fascinating to see who ends up going where and how it plans out.
Let's do a quick breakdown of the Western Conference. So we've talked a bit about Windsor and Kitchener. They're expected to kind of fight it out for, let's call it, number one. Who's better, who's best? They have the most returning players. Windsor, very young last year. I still think they got a 2-year window on this. Liam Greentree won't be there for both years. He'll be there for this year if the Kings send him back, and he's going to be a force this year in the National, or in the Ontario Hockey League, before he makes the jump at some point to the National Hockey League. He's got NHL written all over him in terms of how he plays. And Kitchener, we mentioned the question. The big question is in goal. After that, you have a real mix of teams. So how much of a surprise can Sarnia be? How much of a surprise can Owen Sound be? Because coming in, sure, you can look and recognize faces on their roster. Sarnia is young, but they could come in and be that year-early team. If Patrick Quinlan can give them goaltending, or Evan Millette can give them goaltending, I think you're going to see big years from Hugh Hurt and James Barr. Owen Sound, same kind of thing. They went out and they picked up Noah Roberts to fill an overage spot on defense. You look at their defense core and you think, that's got a lot of versatility. There's a lot going on there. I think Elliot Arnett, who's only 17, is going to really make a name for himself as one of the toughest to play against defensemen in the OHL this year. And then up front, they brought in Nicholas Sikora, who's the son of Peter Sikora. They have a guy like Pierce Bowie, who is coming into his second year, and he's got a real chance to make some noise. So get ready for what Owen Sound does. You'll see it right away. Harry Nancy is a draft pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he's somebody that you're just waiting for that click to happen. And if that click happens, he's a 30-goal scorer. He's a guy putting up 80 points, 90 points. That's in there. That can happen. So Owen Sound is in that category with Sarnia. You're going to see London in that category. You're going to see Flint in that category. Flint's got some guys who have grown as 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. And now what do they do as 18-year-olds? Jimmy Lombardi, Jeremy Martin, those are the guys that you're going to be looking to. Nathan Aspinall is going to be that man among boys. He's massive, but he's got great skill. And on the back end, they're balanced. Nathan Day could be back in net. That could be a big deal for the Flint Firebirds, so I think they're going to be tough to deal with. The Sioux Greyhounds are a question mark, who, again, takes some steps. They've lost some of their leadership, but now it's Brady Martin's team. And Brady Martin will be that force this year. He's 18 years of age, and he's a high NHL pick, and he is going to continue to show why he is a high NHL pick. And then you start looking at, okay, where does some of the other teams factor in? Where does Erie wind up in the grand scheme of things? Because they've added a lot of new faces. They're either going to gel or they're not going to gel. And it's going to be one or the other for the Erie Otters. The Guelph Storm, I think, are a team that could be sneaky good this year. Maybe really establish themselves and then next year take off. Jaco Wysik is someone who he's good. He's really, really good. And he's only 16, but they have a really good base of young players. I think they're still going to kind of fight their way up the standings. And then it comes down to a team like Saginaw, and I think they've exhausted their depth. If Zane Parekh comes back, what do you do with Zane Parekh? But they aren't the deepest team anymore, and I think they'll begin to kind of feel that this year, and they'll be battling for a playoff spot. So that's my quick take on the Western Conference.
No, I like it. You know, it's always, you can give kind of a rough synopsis of the way things are going to go, but until the puck drops, we don't know until it happens. But a fairly good breakdown, and it's all dependent on who's going to be there, steps that they take. You know, does the team follow them, or is it just a couple of people? So we'll see come puck drop.
We will. Last thing we'll do on the pod this week, we had a chance to catch up with Brett Welychka. And when you see Brett Welychka walk off the ice after a workout, you can't help but smile. This guy, part of back-to-back OHL championships, and then went and starred playing U Sports for the Carleton Ravens. He ended up as their captain and then decided, I'm still going to give pro hockey a shot. Played in the American Hockey League with the Manitoba Moose and the Rockford Ice Hogs, and then made the decision to go to Europe. And it's been such a great decision. And now he's a brand new dad. So here's our conversation with Brett Welychka.
Brett, it's hard to know where to begin because you've got all the stuff that you've been doing on the ice. Off the ice, new dad. We're 2 months in to you being a new dad. Those aren't bags under your eyes, are they?
Yeah, you know what? It's a little tiring for sure, but first and foremost, it's unbelievable, and you really do appreciate one, your wife, the amount of stuff that she does for our family, and support and help from all family and friends. But it's amazing leaving the home, coming back, and being able to see my kid and watch him grow every day. Every week's different, and it's a new challenge, but. Becoming a dad is something that we've wanted for a little time now, and it's amazing.
Oh, congratulations. Pretty soon running around, and then who knows what sport. Yeah. I think hockey will be in the future.
I already put him in Mark's ear about don't know what draft year that is. No, we're open to pretty much every sport. We're going to kind of see. I mean, he's 2 months, but I am excited. That's kind of where I'm going to step in for sure. But I think just kind of putting a hockey stick, a golf club, a tennis racket, and maybe even a baseball glove, and just kind of seeing what they do, or an instrument, something like that. So yeah. I think, the world's his oyster, and we'll kind of just support whatever he wants.
Being 2025 birth, you're looking at a 2041
I
OHL draft.
I did have that in my head. Yeah, I did have that in my head. So
that sounds like a weird number.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about life in hockey, because you've been able to see the world. You got to play in North America a little bit, and then you made the jump to Medal Ligaen in Denmark.
Yeah.
Take us through what hockey is like in Denmark first, and then we'll get to some of the other stops.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I decided to make the decision. My wife and I, we played up and down in the American League, and I was just kind of looking to be the guy, I guess you could say. And it's tough to, have that consistency in that league. And if you're not a draft pick, it's tougher and stuff. So we decided to make the trip to Europe, and I think we've loved every minute of it. The travel, the international breaks that we get to see. I've seen a ton of the world over there. My experience speaks for itself in terms of playing in those leagues, seeing things around the world. So I think when I'm done, all said and done, I'll be happy and satisfied, and happy that I carved out a pretty good career.
So from Denmark, Slovakia, Germany, you've been to England.
Yeah.
Where are the rowdiest fans of all of those places?
Germany. Yeah, I mean, the odd time you'll get some crazy ones in Slovakia, but I think all in all, in terms of chanting, whistling, and drums, it's Germany for sure.
Drums.
Oh,
Get that in the drums.
It's a different type of atmosphere. You look at the Budweiser Gardens, for instance. You got 9,000 fans. You go into a German rink with 2,000. It's maybe just as loud. It's intense. It's in your face, and they don't boo. They whistle. So it's sometimes hard to hear. But I loved it over there. It was awesome, and everywhere's been great.
In the dressing room, different leagues will have different numbers of import players. Guys are coming from all over the world.
Yeah.
What languages are being spoken in the room?
Yeah, primarily, I think hockey is a very English-spoken sport. So, for the most part, you're going to hear English, but wherever there's not an import, for instance, if there's not a North American in there and you get 2 Germans or 2 or 3 Slovaks, they're going to be speaking their native language, which is fine. Sometimes maybe you ask them, hey, can you say that in English, just to make sure they're not talking about you, but it's pretty simple, to be honest. In Slovakia, we did not have a English-speaking coach, so I was getting translated to, which was a bit of adjustment. But come February, January, you're pretty. Hockey's kind of a universal language too, right? So you catch on a bit.
Did you pick up any Slovakian?
I did, yeah. I know some Slovakian, some Deutsch, Danish. No, too hard for me. And yeah, that's Danish. They're German and Slovak, yeah.
Anything you wish we had here in Canada that you've experienced? I don't know.
Tons.
Toilets?
Not toilets. Toilets
No?
are a little funky over there. The wellness centers, so for instance, like spas, saunas, cold tubs, and stuff like that, in Czech, in Slovakia, in Eastern European, and in Germany, it's unbelievable. They do things a little differently there. I'm not going to go into that, but the way that they handle things and the centers that they have for wellness is just amazing. The fans, I think the way that they chant, they cheer, it doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday throwaway game in January, they're going to be there, they're going to be supportive, and it's going to be loud. So as a player, you love that, you love to see that. And I think just the food, the quality of food, I think some of the things that you purchase at the grocery store, for instance, like, it's less artificial, and my wife and I are huge into that and health and wellness and stuff. So for us, we love it over there. They're 8 months or 7 months, whatever it is. We enjoy going there, and then coming back to Canada for the summers is great.
Before we let you go, memories with the London Knights. I mean, you played on such good teams. You were such a good player with the Knights.
Yeah.
What do you think about when you think back on the Knights?
Yeah, no, it's funny you asked that. I've been thinking a lot more, just been practicing with the boys now. It's been 12, 13 years since I've played in junior, or 10 or more. So, for me, obviously the easy one I think is to say the OHL championships and holding that over your head, or going to the Memorial Cups. That's the easy one. I think for me though, honestly, I took every single time I took the ice at the Budweiser Gardens, now the Canada Life place. Every single time I took a step on that ice, I just, as a hometown London boy, I don't know if I had goosebumps every single time, but I definitely took it. No, I didn't take it for granted. And just even going back and skating there right now, I still kind of I look around and envision stuff. And yeah, that for me was honestly the best. And then obviously the big one too is just the camaraderie and being with the boys. I mean, some of those guys I have lifelong friendships with that I still, that were at my wedding, speaking in my wedding, or I'm going to theirs and hanging out, playing golf and stuff like that. It all starts from junior, and especially when you win, I think those are special relationships.
A Londoner who still remembers being able to step on the ice in his hometown at now Canada Life Place and will treasure memories like that forever. And so, Brett, congratulations on the career you have had, and good luck this year wherever you wind up playing. I don't think that has been completely announced yet, so we certainly won't speculate, but when we find out for sure, we'll let you know. Brett Welychka of the London Knights.
Nope, sounds good. And Mike, that's it for us. Puck drop in just a couple of days. Can't wait for it.
Don't forget, Fan Fest is happening from 4 to 6 outside Canada Life Place prior to that opening game on September the 19th. And that's free to attend, and you do not need a game ticket. So just come down, because they've got happy hour prices, they've got inflatables for the kids, and they've got live music going, and it's just a great atmosphere. You see green and gold all over the place, and then anybody who's heading inside will be able to watch the 2025 Memorial Cup Championship banner raised to the rafters, and then a brand new year begins. Cannot wait.
Can't wait for it. Again, follow us wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube to watch it. Countdown is on, Mike. We'll see you soon.